Hi everyone, today let's talk about Palantir earnings, and then we'll talk about Elon Musk's surgery. Then we'll get into the economic data, Max Payne, the charts, and my results for the day. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open as well as Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So Palantir topped earnings with 13% revenue growth, and they also bumped up their full year guidance. They were up a little bit today. Earnings per share, 5 cents, right on the money. Revenue, right on the money. But the company is still growing quite fast, and they also announced a $1 billion stock buyback. And you can see that here, which is quite a lot of cash for a company of this size. Moving over to Elon, they say he is planning on receiving an MRI on his neck and upper back, and that he might need to get a surgery before his match with Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg. I still think this fight is hilarious, and I am here to see it. Definitely looks funny. He also mentioned that he's about 300 pounds, which is interesting. I didn't realize that he was so large, but apparently he's like 6'4" and 300 pounds. Otherwise, moving over to the economic calendar, we had Fed Bowman speaking again. We talked about her on the Sunday video. She said more rate hikes are coming. Looking at tomorrow's calendar, not much out there. 3-year note, fairly interesting. Don't forget we have CPI on Thursday. That's the big one for the economic calendar. Moving over to earnings, you can see we had Palantir here. They're saying this was a slight miss, but that was right on the money from the other article. Tyson Foods missing on both top and bottom lines. Lucid Motors missing as well. Not much for today. Looking at tomorrow, we have Eli Lilly, UPS, SoftBank, Duke Energy. Most of the heavy hitters are done, but a few interesting ones. Moving over to Fed futures just for a moment, I want to highlight that the current prediction is a pause in September. Obviously, this could shift with the data, especially if we see inflation spike up on Thursday. But it's interesting to see Fed Bowman coming out saying we're going to get more rate hikes, and the market is currently not predicting that. November, still looking at a pause. December, still looking at a pause. So those rate hikes that she keeps talking about and Jay Powell have talked about, currently not priced into the markets. Moving over to Max Payne, you can see it did shift a little bit. Now sitting at 449, stock just above that level. We had a put wall come in here at 447, so that's an interesting baseline for the week. Call wall still at 462. I would assume that we're going to finish somewhere between those levels at this point. 450, fairly interesting. 455, little lull in there. Obviously, this is going to continue to shift as we move through the week. Put call ratio getting lower and lower here, down at 1.55. Overall, fairly neutralized in my opinion. Moving over to the charts, starting with the S&Ps here on the hour and the 4 hour. You can see the hourly got above this trend line, ended up holding and rallying right up to the next one. Horizontal resistance still sitting at 453, but trend resistance looking like we're breaking down from that level here after hours. Momentum starting to fade. Definitely interesting, but it is worth noting that we got above the 9, 21, and 55 as well as VWAP here on the hourly chart, so we're starting to see a little bit of a reversal on these shorter time frames. 4-hour chart, however, we have that big 21 EMA sitting at 451.35. If it's going to reject, you really need it to hold here at the trend, break down from that level. 4-hour momentum, slightly bullish. RSI still below the 50 line on the 4-hour, so kind of neutralized here on the 4-hour, still demonstrating a little bit of bullishness on the 1-hour. Don't forget the longer time frames are still quite bearish, and this could absolutely be just a shorter term pullback. Similarly, on the NASDAQ here on the hour and the 4-hour, big rally after throwing a wick to that aftermarket low yesterday, rallied up, ended up closing up around 375. Again, 4-hour chart, slight bullish momentum, still bearish RSI. 21 sitting right at my level here, 376.45. That would be the level that I would be looking for a short potential if we don't just kind of fall off from this current level after hours, which is absolutely a possibility. Overall, short-term bullish, still longer-term bearish. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow here on the 4-hour. The Russell basically went sideways on the day, threw a big wick to the downside, and I decided to roll those puts out actually at a pretty good level, and then we ended up closing pretty decently strong right in the middle of this range. Still below the level. We still have a technical downtrend with the 9 and 21 EMAs set up the way that they are. The 21 also crossed the 55, which does not look great, but price action still showing some decent strength. Dow rallying pretty aggressively actually, gapped up, hit that level just for a moment, rallied right through it to the next one. This was actually the best trade on the day. We're right at the previous day's highs, and this looks pretty clean up to the next level. You also could have a pretty tight stop here at 353.62. Moving over to Apple and Tesla. Apple continuing to be a falling knife. Broke that level, went straight to the next one, through some wicks. Maybe a decent trade off of that level, just for a shorter term bounce. We're super oversold here on the shorter time frames. And you can see this consolidation that we had going back to June. Could certainly bounce from this level, maybe rally up just a few points, retrace just a little bit. 21 EMA on the 4-hour chart sitting all the way up at 189. So even if we got a little bit of mean reversion, even up to VWAP, that would put us back up to 183.35. Maybe a decent little trade for a counter trend, wouldn't hold it very long. Absolutely still a falling knife, showing very little consolidation. Tesla, on the other hand, gap down, through a wick, rallied into the mid-session, still a downtrend. You have the 9, 21, and 55 EMAs and the 144 all in line now. We still have the 200 SMA sitting down here, but we are below it. We're below all the EMAs and SMAs on the 4-hour chart. And I'm still looking at 232.84 as a price target here on Tesla. Moving over to staples and discretionary. Staples rallying up, close to that 21 EMA, close to my resistance area. Big rejection off of that down move. 144 EMA holding, momentum looking like it's going to turn bullish. Right at a critical level. Definitely these previous lows, definitely an area of supply. If it breaks down from here, that could be a big indicator that we are going lower. But right now it looks okay. Does need to push through that level. Discretionary, rallying pretty decently on the day. Still in this area of consolidation, very little changed here on the day. Moving over to top performers for the sectors here, you can see financials rallying super aggressively. This is what held up the Dow today. Industrials also rallying pretty decently. We're in a shorter term downtrend, but the 144 is holding, have a level down here at 107. Got kind of close to that level, and then we're rallying back into this mid zone. Overall, both of these sectors look okay. Bottoming, looking like a rally back up to this previous high. Potentially could double top at that area and then break down, but right now it looks decent. Moving over to breadth here, you can see we got almost an engulfing candle on both of these. Hit this level on Friday, ended up bouncing, hitting that 55 EMA, got just above it, up to 65 on the 50-day average. So this move was pretty aggressive, and it was bound to retrace at least a little bit. Does seem like we could get a few days of pullback on both of these charts, and you can see that here on the 200 as well. Didn't quite engulf it, didn't quite get to that 64.74 level, and we didn't quite get to that 55 EMA either, so maybe we just get a shorter term pullback, get a slightly lower low here at this same level, and then rally up from there. Certainly could. Overall, you have to respect a little bit of bullishness after this falling knife type move, and we might see just a day or two of pullback before we ultimately see a bigger drawdown. Moving over to the daily chart on the 4-hour and the daily, you can see on the 4-hour we came up, tested that 21 EMA, and then broke down from that level. This is one of my favorite setups actually to the downside. If this 21 EMA continues to hold, I would expect this to break down much further, potentially pushing down to 101.60 or these previous lows around 101.45. And looking at the daily chart, you can see we threw a wick, ended up pretty rejected on the day. You need that 9-day moving average to break down at 101.93 as well, which is basically at the trend line at this point. If it's going to reject, it really needs to pull back further. And if the dollar continues to show some weakness into the next day or two, that could push equities up a little bit, which is consistent with the prediction on breadth. Moving over to JNK and TLT here on the daily chart. JNK gapped up, threw a big wick to the downside, and then held this trend, which is interesting. So you have a low, slightly higher low, rallying just a little bit over the last 2 days. TLT continues to suffer as yields continue to sit higher and probably will go higher in the short term once we start to price in those hikes. But JNK showing a little bit of strength, indicating that there's a little bit of risk appetite out there. Moving over to the volatility indices, as you would expect, both of these pulled back here today. I still think the VIX is in a decent spot where it could just pull back a few days and then rally, similar to what we've said on the other charts. Still looks decent to the upside, but definitely pulling back a little bit in the shorter term. Moving over to my accounts, I ended up flipping bullish just a little bit on the NASDAQ. I have 2 covered calls here out to 374. You can see I have those 200 shares. I'm basically at max profit already. I have about 40 more cents to max profit for tomorrow. I wouldn't mind letting these shares go tomorrow. I do think we'll see a drawdown over the next couple days at some point, and this is just a shorter term retrace, so I'd like to take advantage of this rally, get executed tomorrow, and then reestablish a short position. But right now I do have 2 covered calls. I have these puts that expired worthless, and then I have 2 puts here at 194. I rolled down and out on those 195s that I had, which ended up being a pretty good call. And I did do that at a pretty decent price at the lows. Overall, still neutral on the IWM, still bearish on the Qs, but trading for a little bit of a pullback. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of Palantir or Elon Musk's surgery. Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.